Welcome to this episode of Trojan Poetry. Today we're going to read a poem called It Was the Animals by Natalie Diaz. And I picked the poem this week and John hasn't read it yet. It was the animals. Today my brother brought over a piece of the ark wrapped in a white plastic grocery bag. He set the bag on my dining table, unknotted it, peeled it away, revealing a foot-long fracture of wood. He took a step back and gestured toward it with his arms and open palms. "It's the ark," he said. "You mean Noah's ark?" I asked. "What other ark is there?" he answered. "Read the inscription," he told me. "It tells what's going to happen at the end." "What end?" I wanted to know. He laughed. "What do you mean, what end?" "The end." Then he lifted it out. The plastic bag rattled. His fingers were silkened by pipe blisters. He held the jagged piece of wood so gently. I had forgotten my brother could be gentle. He set it on the table the way people on television set things when they're afraid those things might blow up or go off. He set it right next to my empty coffee cup. It was no ark. It was the broken end of a picture frame with a floral design carved into its surface. He put his head in his hands. "I shouldn't show you this. God, why did I show her this? It's ancient. Oh, God, this is so old." "Fine," I gave in. "Where did you get it?" "The girl," he said. "Oh, the girl." "What girl?" I asked. "You'll wish you never knew," he told me. I watched him drag his wrecked fingers over the chipped flowerwork of the wood. "You should read it, but oh, you can't take it no matter how many books you've read." He was wrong. I could take the ark. I could even take his marvelous fingers, the way they almost glittered. It was the animals I could not take. They came up the walkway into my house, cracked the doorframe with their hooves and hips, marched past me into my kitchen, into my brother, tails snaking across my feet before disappearing like retracting vacuum cords into the hollows of my brother's clavicles, tusks scraping the walls, reaching out for him, wildebeest, pigs, the oryxes with their black matching horns, javelinas, jaguars, pumas, raptors, the ocelots with their mathematical faces. So many kinds of goat, so many kinds of creature. I wanted to follow them to get to the bottom of it, but my brother stopped me. "This is serious," he said. "You have to understand. It can save you." So I sat down with my brother wrecked open like that, and two by two the fantastical beast parading him. I sat as the water fell against my ankles, built itself up around me, filled my coffee cup before floating it away from the table. My brother, teeming with shadows, a hull of bones, lit only by tooth and tusk, lifting his ark high into the air. Okay, so this one is a little bit longer than some of the ones we've done in the past, but I really like this. And we've had our series on animals observing people, and I read this and I thought, let's do one on people looking at animals. So that's about the extent of my thought process on that one. But this one, to me, I thought it was very interesting because I started reading it, and it's like, okay, there's this guy, and he thinks he's got the ark, and the sister's very quizzical, and there's a couple key hints in here, and I really enjoy writers who let you do the thinking for yourself. So she's showing us and not telling us, which is something I talk about my students a lot with their creative writing. Show the characters in action, don't tell us what they're thinking, and then let us make up our minds. So for example, where he lifts the ark out and it says his fingers were silkened by pipe blisters, and then again later in the poem it says, "I watched him drag his wrecked fingers over the chipped flowerwork of the wood." And so I thought about pipe blisters, and I thought, this guy must be a drug addict, right? What kind of pipe is she mentioning? And that's what stood out to me. And again, at the end, where she says, I'd forgotten he could be so gentle, and she says, "My brother wrecked open like that." So she used wrecked twice to talk about this guy, and then she starts talking about these animals parading into him, and then he's lifting the ark up at the end as the water's filling the room, as if he's trying to survive or escape or float away or something like that. And so I thought about the animals and what they might represent. So I don't know what John's going to say, but I'll let you comment too. As they're filling this guy up, right, what do these animals represent for the writer? I also really liked, I don't know why, but the one line that stood out to me were the ocelots with their mathematical faces and so many kinds of goat. And I just thought that was a great image. Ocelots. It's easy for me to not say, with mathematical faces. So I just think about the symmetry of a cat's face and how perfect it is. And so maybe I thought she was talking about the mathematical symmetry. But I'll let John jump in here. I have a couple of other ideas, but I want to see what you thought.
Well, I think what we're seeing as we make these videos is the danger of the first read.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
clearly, and we know this, but we're proving it weekly, that reading a poem the first time is really difficult. And you don't always get much or understand much maybe of what's going on, or even a fraction of what's there. Yeah. I picked up on the issue of the drugs right away.
I saw you marking that as I went and read through that line.
And the surreal kind of nature of the situation and the sadness, right? I mean, even though it's so surreal, there's that sadness that she had forgotten her brother could be gentle. I guess as you were talking, and I was thinking about on page, well, I'm sorry,
the second part of the poem.
The middle maybe of the poem. And it's always important to look at the middle of a poem, right? Like what's dead center in the poem. When he says, you should read it, but you can't take it no matter how many books you've read. So it's questioning that idea of knowledge. Like, even if you think you're well-read, you don't know real life, or you don't know, not real life, but this arc, right? This is so beyond your knowledge. And then she says he was wrong. I could take the arc. I could even take his marvelously effed fingers, the way they almost glittered, and there's that weird sense of beauty, right? His fingers are glittering. And then it was the animals I could not take. So, I mean, she's gotten used to the reality of his drug situation, but somehow it's the animals in the ark, and I don't really understand what the animals could represent, or why they would freak her out, or cause the confusion. Because I think of like Noah's Ark, I think of like little play figures, right? Like my daughter has a Noah's Ark Playmobil set, right? And they're just little figures, but these become menacing, even though they're not menacing. I mean,
in the description, she just lists them off, right? There's not necessarily anything about them eating him or attacking him or going into him. In the last stanza, my brother teeming with shadows, which I thought is another hint of this guy's, whatever shady stuff he's up to. And I agree with you about when he says you can read all the books you want. So it's almost like he's got this bitter kind of rivalry with his sister, who maybe is more successful, more academic, and he's got the street smarts, But then it says, my brother's a hull of bones in the last stanza, lit only by tooth and tusk, lifting his ark high in the air. So she's looking at this guy as almost like a skeleton,
right?
And the animals represent maybe the drugs that he's putting into himself and how they're taking him over and hollowing him out.
And I kind of thought the second to last stanza, when she says, so I sat down with my brother, wrecked open like that, and 2 by 2 fantastical beasts parading him, which is a strange structure. I sat as the water fell against my ankles, and I thought maybe she was crying. The water being tears, and the tears are like a flood.
Filling up the room, and then he's trying to float away.
Right. Filled my coffee cup before floating it away from she's not hallucinating, but she's imagining water, and I guess I took that as tears, which you can imagine, right, being the case, right? The brother is having some kind of delusional
that was the other thing, too. He finds this piece of a picture frame, brings it home in a plastic bag, and has had this spiritual awakening, or he thinks he has, so it's almost like he's not even in there, he's seeing something that's not there, which she accepts and tries to wonder what's so deep about this. My brother's affected by it. I accept that. I'm not going to call him crazy. I'm going to run with it, right?
Right. But then it's overwhelming. Like to go there
is too much. Whatever that arc is for them is too much.